Hi there, and welcome to another interview. Today, I've got the fantastic Frank Sherman with me, and I'm going to ask Frank the same question I ask absolutely everybody. Hey, Frank, why did you become carnivore?
Hey Thomas, thank you so much for having me on. Mine came by accident actually. It wasn't something that I had sought out. I was 345 pounds. I had just gone through a pretty bad divorce, and I was fighting for rights for my son, and it was drug out over a year. So I was pretty broke through attorney fees, switching jobs, and I was really out of shape. But I live alone and I had one 50-50 custody with my son, and he's autistic nonverbal. And I live alone and I don't have like family that's going to help me with my son or anything like that. So I was one day laying in bed and it just had dawned on me because I had really bad sleep apnea, heart palpitations, my legs were going numb, I was losing feeling in my toes, and I couldn't get my blood pressure down, and I was just in such bad shape, and everything was getting worse on me. And I was laying in bed, and the thought occurred to me that if it's a day that I get my son for the whole week, and it's that first day, and something happens to me, and I don't wake up, well then my son will be stuck in a house for at the very least 5 days at that point. And because he is nonverbal and he is severe autistic, he wouldn't even know um, what was going on. He wouldn't know that I wasn't waking up or anything like that. He wouldn't be able to survive, and nobody would be checking in, so no one would even know for at least 5 days at that point. So I decided at that point I need to take control of something because I was really in a position that it was all chaos. I had no control over anything. And I had huge amounts of depression and anxiety, which is something I actually don't talk about a lot uh, as far as depression goes. It's something I kind of forget, honestly, but it weighed on me pretty heavily. And so I had decided I needed to do something. I needed to take control of something. And there was a moment in my life before. I've always been a big guy. As a kid, I was a heavy set kid. Um, and then I had lost weight through severe calorie restrictions and a lot of cardio. But I also would purge. And that was the only way that I could think of to lose weight. But this time it wasn't about weight. It literally was about health. And because I was actually scared. And to be upfront, it wasn't that I was afraid of one day not waking up. Honestly, I welcomed it at that moment of my life. And but I did fear that if it had happened during that time, something really bad could happen to my son. So I decided I know myself pretty good, I think. And I know that I have extremely weak willpower. And I've stated this before in some of my videos and stuff. If it was, if this way of eating relied on my willpower alone, I would not be able to do it. I wouldn't have been able to stick with it. It's just how this way of eating works, especially for someone like me that has a huge appetite, that needs to eat, that feels the urge to eat. Um, this worked really well for me. I'm not trying to digress. It's just something I'm putting in there. But as far as me waking up and realizing what I needed to do, I decided because I know these things about myself, because I know I have a weak willpower, I needed to start small. So the way I do things, because of my weak willpower, is I tend to make deals with myself. For example, so I'll set a goal. I'll set a rule that I do on a daily basis, and this rule is completely doable. It's nothing that takes any excessive amounts of energy for me. It's nothing that would be completely out of my way of doing. So, for example, going to the gym. the rule is I don't have to go to the gym and work out. I don't have to. That's my goal, but it's not my rule. My rule is I have to at least walk into the gym. At that point, if I decide to turn around and walk back out, I can. But once I'm in there often, I'll just go ahead and do my gym time. And so that's how I applied it to my way of eating. And so I would set really simplistic rules for myself or ultimate goal. And the rule was for me, okay, for this week, I'm not cutting out sweets, but I'm no longer going to purchase sweets for myself. And at the time, I drove a truck. And so that would cut out most of my daily intake of sweets, because I would often stop at gas stations and get, the junk foods that they have, which pretty much everything at a gas station has sugar, or if not, it's sweet. And that would include sodas, candy bars, cakes, energy drinks, the pre-made coffees, all that stuff. And so that was the deal I'm in for myself. In the situation lies, if I was at a birthday party or someone offered me a piece of cake or something like that, I could take it. But I myself could not purchase anything for myself. And I ran with that, and it worked out pretty good for that first week. And then the following week, I was like, okay, I got to step it up a little bit. What's my next goal? I was able to pull that off that week. So maybe I'll cut out all refined sugars. So I was still leaving myself open to fruits, at which I started actually taking in a lot of fruits. And I did not eat fruit a lot before that. It wasn't like a go-to for me. But I would stop at grocery stores and start buying like watermelon, actually the stuff with a lot of sugar, like pineapple and stuff like that, grapes. And so that was replacing my need to eat something sweet. And it was working out. I pulled another week off on that. And then I was under the impression that there were healthy sugars and there were unhealthy sugars. But I had just kind of thought about it. From what I had learned, it still raises your insulin. And see, my whole thing was I was pre-diabetic, if not diabetic at that point, because 3 years prior to me even deciding to do this, I was found to be pre-diabetic, but I had never gone back, and I hadn't changed anything. If anything, I was getting worse. So I could have potentially been diabetic because I did have really bad edema in my right leg, or both legs, but in my right leg, my foot, I had actually lost feeling in like 4 of my toes. So anyways, I just from the little bit of research that I did myself, I had discovered that, these things raise your insulin. And that's what causes diabetes. So I had decided, well, in my case, at the very least, sugar is sugar no matter where it's coming from, because it's still doing the same thing. So that following week, I had decided I'm just going to quit all sweets. And I was successful was that week. And I was starting to feel better, actually, at that point. I wasn't losing any weight or anything like that. I was still puffy, but I was starting to feel, I maybe lost a pound or two, but I was still really puffy and all that stuff. And then after I was successful with that week, I had actually started doing some real research. And then that's when I discovered that carbs actually turn into glucose, which spikes your insulin. And I had thought I really just wanted to get rid of it. But it's when I discovered that, I had figured, well, I can't obviously cut out vegetables. And then that's when I came across Carnivore. And then when I was reading up on it, honestly, it was scaring me. I was like, there's no way that this can actually work. And I don't trust the things I see, well, pretty much anywhere. Anything that's on a screen, I have a hard time trusting it. And so I was watching these people and their results, and I thought to myself, I was like, these are kind of blown out of proportion. You could go find these results with any kind of diet and all this stuff, and there's just no way that this is actually benefiting them the way that they're claiming it's benefiting them. But I had decided, or I had figured, I'm actually in the worst position of my life. Honestly, how much worse could it possibly get for me at this point? And I'm basically already here. I love meat. I'm from Texas, and barbecue is a huge part of my life. So I've always been a huge barbecue guy. I was like, this gives me the opportunity to kind of just eat the way I like to eat anyways. And I honestly wasn't really big. I grew up on a farm. We grew up eating vegetables and stuff like that, but I wasn't really dead set on having to have vegetables with anything, because when I went to go make a plate, my goal was the meat or whatever, if we were having brisket or barbecue chicken or whatever it was, that was my ultimate goal. The other stuff was like, well, it was to put on a show. People want to see me eating this, so I'll eat it. I didn't necessarily dislike most stuff, but I didn't have to have it. So since I thought I'm basically already here, what's the worst that could happen to me at this point? I'm as bad as I'm going. I could get beyond just not waking up tomorrow, And I gave it a shot. I don't know if I went in with the intent of I'm only going to pull this off for a week. I can't actually remember, but I went into it, and I decided I'm going to start tomorrow. And while I was driving in the truck, I just started watching YouTube videos on Carnivore. And I came across a lot of information, and that's actually something that I try to suggest to people all the time. If you decide to do this, and I hope you do, you please do your research. Do so much research on it, because there's so many things that'll scare you. People are already scared to make that leap anyways, because it has such a bad stigma on it. But if you can at least do your research, you can know what to expect. You can know the downsides at the very beginning of when you're doing this in that way, because a lot of people won't do that research, and all of a sudden they get the keto flu, or they have bad diarrhea, or they don't have any energy because they're not fat adapted yet. And then they're like, oh, this doesn't work for me. And unfortunately, they pulled off right when they should have, because they were just already in the process of making those changes. So I had actually did the research, and I was already ready for it. And I did have most of those problems my first month. But my first week, keep in mind, I had really, really bad heartburn since I was 16 years old. And I was medicated for it. I also had, I can't remember the technical name, but my esophagus was scarred up from acids, and I would choke constantly on stuff. So if I was to eat anything, I often had to have a drink with it to push it down, or else it would get stuck. And sometimes I would actually drink something to push it down, and then the fluid would just spill past my airway, and I would have to force it back out the other direction. So it was actually pretty bad. Also, I had sleep apnea, really bad. And my first week, I wasn't sure about the heartburn. I didn't actually test it because I was always taking medication for it. Test it until the following week. But my first week, my sleep apnea was gone. This is something I struggled with forever. Even when I had lost weight the last time, this is something, and this was instant. This is before I lost any weight or anything. So for those that want to say that, well, I gained all these health benefits because I lost the weight. The reality is, I gained these health benefits way before I actually started losing any significant amount of weight. But yeah, the sleep apnea went away. I actually took an app, and my first night, because when I would wake up, my throat would be sore from the snoring, and of course I'd be incredibly tired. And so I had decided, I had woken up many times at this point throughout the week, and my throat didn't feel that way. And so I was interested. I had gotten an app, and I had recorded myself, but nothing happened. It never turned on. So I thought, well, maybe that app didn't work. I downloaded a different app, and I did it another couple of nights, and still there was nothing. But at one point during the night, my son, he often wakes up around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. and he had came in and he had made noise and it turned on and recorded it. And I was like, oh, it is working. I'm literally not making any noise. I'm not snoring. And so it actually blew my mind because I had gone to do all the tests. I was supposed to use the PAP machine and I couldn't use the stupid thing because it was just too much. And all of a sudden, just probably 3 days into doing Carnivore, I had already successfully knocked it out completely. So yeah, I was mind blown, and then that actually motivated me. The following week, that's when I decided I'm not going to take my heartburn medicine. My seat. Keep in mind, I couldn't go any longer than 2 days without that medicine, and it would get really, really bad. And I've never taken it again since. Nothing ever happened. Nothing ever came out of it. And this is something I've been taking since I was 16. So that was actually pretty huge. But also by my second week, I had already dropped 15 pounds. Now this 15 pounds was water weight for sure. But the swelling that I had was unbelievable. I think by the first month, I probably had about 30 pounds of water weight on me. I was horribly swollen, my face, my legs, everything. And then once that happened, the health benefits, they just all shower in month to month to month because I was no longer battling, all of that inflammation that was going on in my body. But yeah, so that's basically how I actually came into Carnivore. After a month and I saw all the results, I was like, I'm not going back.
Wow, what a story. And I think it's really, you played it down quite a bit, but doing it for your son is such a lovely reason why. I mean, one of the things I say to people I coach is you've got to have a strong reason why, the why that makes you cry. Because if you're not passionate about this or there isn't something driving you, it might be just too difficult because, your friends or family think you're weird because of what you're doing, or it's hard to get the right food when you're out and about. But that's such a powerful why. And also, choked me a bit when I heard it, to be honest, Frank. It was, it's a great thing. And I have heard this sort of thing before, you want to be a father, you want to be a mother, you want to be around for your grandkids, whatever. And I think this, it's a fantastic motivation. And you snuck in a couple of bits there. You said you suffered with depression, which you don't talk about much. Would you feel like talking a little bit about that and how that's gone? I'm assuming that's gone now.
Yeah. So, so I have to make a list of all my issues because I do forget, even though most of these things I struggle with. Most of my adult life at the very least. Now the depression stuff, it came and went as I, grew. Of course, my teenage years, actually my adolescence to my teenage years were really rough actually. Yeah, and this would be the first time I actually talk about it because I actually haven't. I don't normally talk about it. And I think it's because I didn't know if I was actually depressed. I didn't know if I met that qualification. But now that I'm on the other side of it, I know, okay, yes, I definitely suffered from depression. It was a shoot, like all the problems that I had mentally with trying to push some kind of success in my life, I would always hurt myself. I would always interact. I would always end up stopping myself from doing anything that could probably bring me any source of happiness. And I just thought it was due to, well, you're just lazy. You're not smart. You're just not capable. And really and truly, the driver behind that wasn't depression. It just really just kept me down. So I would just stay in a rut mentally, and I just it caused me not to have motivation to do much of anything. But I did at a younger age deal with suicidal thoughts. I came from a really rocky background. Just long story short, kind of more or less raised by my grandparents. My dad was in prison for child abuse. Got put in the children's home, and Also because I was a very big kid, I got picked on a lot. Even though I was much bigger than everybody, I was just a kind of a sweet kid. And so it just kind of left me open. Also, where I grew up, I was kind of a minority there. So I just really stuck out. And I was an easy target for people. But yeah, I hated myself completely. Um, so the part of my prayers at night was I didn't want to wake up. And this was as a kid. But as I grew up, I found my own ways to deal with things. But I think I was just I just had such a bad chemical imbalance, especially in my teenage years. It was just an uphill battle. Like there was just no way to come out of it. Once I had started doing this carnivore, and then of course, before I go that route, this last divorce was probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to deal with. I mean, I had lost my sister during it. I had, due to leukemia and cancer, and actually was relying on her to actually move in with me to help me with my son during this time. It was just it's just a weird chain of events that just kind of all happened. She came down and then we had to go to the ER and she didn't wake up from that. And during this time I had, a lot being thrown at me with a divorce, and I was in bad shape. I wasn't happy with myself. So I was actually just I was getting older, I was in my early 40s. And so I was like, I'm starting over at the bottom again. So when I did this, it was just one of my last attempts, to just take control of something, honestly. Or that's what it allowed me to do. It allowed me to feel like I had control over something. That wasn't the reason, but that's what came out of it. But once I just started eating the way I was supposed to, it's nothing that just like, I don't wake up one day and like, oh, I don't feel like I'm a horrible person or anything. You don't realize it until, here I am 13 months later, and and then I'm just going down the list. I'm like, oh, I don't deal with these issues anymore, at all. And I'm very happy with myself. I do feel like I can achieve the goals that I'm setting for myself because, well, I'm proving to myself that I can. So this is actually a really good way to kind of prove to yourself. Honestly, it's an easy way to prove to yourself that you're capable. Because unlike any other diet, or unlike diets in general, when you do calorie restrictions, you're setting yourself up for failure. I mean, if you were overweight, if you were really overweight, you were overweight because you like to eat. Now, you do massive calorie restrictions, that's not something you're going to be able to attain because that's not who you are. That's not who you are naturally. You naturally have a good appetite, which is great. Like these types of people, like we were built that way to actually survive hard times. That's what kept us on top of the food chain, kept us moving forward. So don't hate yourself for that. It's just when you gear it in the right direction and you find out, okay, if I'm not eating all this food that causes inflammation, that takes me on to ketosis and that relies on carbs for my energy. If I'm not eating all that and I'm eating these high protein meals with the fats that you're using for energy, and the nutrition, dense nutrition surplus that you're going to get out of that, you can eat what you want. I do. I see people do say calorie restrictions all the time. I'm like, no, I don't. I eat. I eat when I'm hungry and I eat until I'm full. And that's why I can do this. And then after the month of the little bit of struggle that I had here and there, once that was over and I didn't have those addictions anymore, like there was no reason for me to go back because I get to fully fulfill my appetite with foods that I really like. And the longer I do it, the farther back these other foods just play in the back of my head. Like they don't really affect me like that. I might have moments where I'm like, oh, it'd be cool to have a piece of cake, because that was my weakness, was sweets. But not really. It doesn't drive me to do anything that I'm not going to do, especially because the benefits so far magically outweigh the cons. Like, I feel great about myself. I look good. My skin looks good. My hair feels good. I didn't know I had this structure underneath all that, you know? So, yeah, I can't go back to doing that stuff. And also, I know myself. I know that if I was to ever cheat, to cheat is to say, okay, I'm ready. Because after you do this for so long, you're no longer in a diet mindset. A diet mindset is really hard, and it only comes by in small windows for most people. Like, and then you'll stick to it, and then you'll wing off of it over time. So to get into a diet mindset is extremely complicated, like a proper one. So whenever you decide I'm going to cheat, what you're telling yourself is, I am 100% prepared to go back on a diet again. And you're not. You don't realize you're more than likely not, you know, because once you eat that stuff, well, now the addictions are back and you're not prepared for it. You weren't thinking about the addictions popping back up like that. Or maybe you were, but you weren't physically prepared and mentally prepared to actually go back on a diet, something that you had worked so hard to get out of, you know, because this may feel like a diet at first, but you soon realize it's not. It's because you're not restricting yourself or anything, and you don't have to, because you're in ketosis, because you're fat adapted. These things, you don't have to worry about the calories like you would if you're eating carbs, because your body uses what it needs to. It's eating up the fat as energy. You need as much as that as you can. The longer you do this, especially if you're a big guy, if you're naturally a big guy like I was, you're going to find you need a lot of fat, or you just need to eat a lot. But you don't have to worry about the calories. And honestly, if you did the math, you'd probably find you weren't eating as many calories as you assume you would be. You can eat bacon all day. Surprised how much you can get away with, you know, as far as the calorie count goes. But regardless, yeah, that's what makes this so doable for an average extremely overweight person like me, with that simple mindset of be lazy, eat food, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, that long list of stresses and pressures and stuff like that, that's a pretty amazing thing that you've done there. And I'm glad that you can have the confidence to say, I'm happy with myself, because a lot of people that have been bullied in the past, they find that really difficult to actually say. But I think the longer you eat this way, the more clear-headed you become, and you're actually able to rationalize some of the things that have been horrendous in your past. I mean, I think I've had quite a bad past, but it's not as bad as maybe what you've just there. But I like also some of the things. I just want to just summarize. One of the things that really jumped out was taking control. And I think that's a big thing. You take control of your life. Putting something into your mouth is a thing that nobody can force you to do. In the real world, where everyone's properly sociable and stuff, you pick what you eat. That's the way it goes. And you said that you didn't say, I'm going to cut out sweets. You said, I'm not going to purchase sweets. Now, that might seem like a tiny little detail to people listening, but it's actually hugely effective to look at things differently. You know, because I always say this, I don't want anyone to wake up and go, right, today I'm not having ice cream. Today I'm not doing this. Today I'm not doing that. You are just going to fail, because the brain doesn't work in a subconscious way. Because if I said to you, Frank, don't think about elephants, right? You have to think about elephants to not think about elephants. So it's always better to go on the positive thing. But you put a really nice twist on there, which is, I'm not going to purchase sweets. That is a brilliant thing to come up with. I don't know if you heard that somewhere else or you came up with that, but I think that's even better than not having carbs in the house or something like that. Because, yeah, you can clear all the carbs out, but you can go and buy some more. That's it. That's what people do. Yeah, I cleared out the kitchen, Stephen, on Monday, and on Wednesday I went out shopping and I bought some. And I'm like, right, okay. Did you eat them? Or they were in the house, so I ate them. So you've got that middle ground there where you're not even buying them in the first place, which definitely, for some people I coach, and some people are thinking about this way of eating, that might be a game changer. So I really want to thank you for that from the bottom of my heart. That's just a brilliant bit of advice which worked for you. I always get asked, if I don't ask this, why didn't you ask it? So what is your day of eating? I know it's a bit boring after the really big topics we've just been through, but what's your day of eating look like?
And I just wanted to add that I actually came up with that when I almost had an accident in a tow truck I was driving. And I was thinking, because I wasn't sleeping enough. And I was trying to figure out, how am I going to trick myself to sleep more? And then that's when it dawned on me, I just have to trick myself into doing stuff. So I had to set goals that put me in a position to do better. And so these are anytime. So I actually sat down for days on all the things that I wanted to achieve and what was the first smallest step I could take to put me in that position. Something that I could actually achieve on a daily. Nothing that would be too far. Like it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't, I have to go to the gym every day and work out. It was, I just need to go into the gym and I could turn around. Because with that mindset, because I always need an out. So with the sugars, I still had an out. I couldn't purchase the sweets, but I could still have them. I just couldn't get them myself. And so with that mindset, it allowed me to feel like I'm not really on a diet at all. I can have anything that I want. These are just certain things that I can't do. And that those little tricks allow me to move forward with my personality, my willpower and stuff like that. And what was the question you asked me?
What's your day of eating look like? What do you want? It's okay.
Sorry. So actually I've narrowed it down quite a bit at this point. My grocery bill is pretty much become the same every month because I go in and I'll buy 5 packs of sugar-free bacon, which will be 5 pounds of bacon. I'll go in and we have these ribeye steaks that come in 3 packs. They're about $30 a piece, nice and thick. And I'll go buy 2 packs of those, and those will last me throughout the week. And I buy water. I buy a big thing of eggs and about 3 things of butter. And sometimes I'll buy some shrimp. That's really it. If I'm on the road, if I'm at home and I don't have time to get back to the house and cook or something like that, I'll make myself. I'll stop and get brisket. I also will get wings. I'll buy wings and make wings. They're fun. They're nice way to kind of break things up. But before that, I look forward to these things now. Before that, I was going all over the place trying to take out the monotony of just eating the same things. I was like, I'm tired of this, I'm tired of that, and I would just ship around. But the longer I did it now, like, I really look forward to my butter. I really look forward to my steak. I really look forward to my fried eggs and bacon. And it just happens naturally. Which is not my personality by any means.
Well, that's fabulous. I just think that was great. I really enjoyed listening to you. If there's anyone sort of on the fence about carnivore, have you got a sort of single piece of advice you could give them if they're not quite sure whether they should jump in?
I definitely say put all your biases aside. Because I'm a person just like you. If I was to have approached myself, if someone came up to me and was like, during that time, it was like, here, do carnivore, I would have probably been like, you're crazy, push it away. But really and truly, just do yourself a favor. Put your biases aside if you have biases. I mean, we all do have biases because that's how we were raised towards the meat. But just if you look into politics and stuff like that, you're going to realize you can't trust any of that stuff. And if you're on that page, then trust it a little farther in the sense that the foods that we're getting are actually garbage. They are poison. I mean, they really are. And it's kind of, you probably hear that all the time. Once you're on the other side of it, it really dawns on you. And it's scary. It's scary because you do believe that if that one's a lie, what else is a lie? Because the benefits are amazing. Your mind will be blown, especially and please do it for health reasons, not weight. I find people way more successful with losing weight if they're actually on it for health reasons and are looking for those health results, because those are the things you're going to start to notice first. And but definitely do your research. Put your bias aside, do your research, watch videos, see what these people are accomplishing, because it's legit. And the reason why you'll find some comfort and its legitness is because they're not selling you anything. It's just average people like me. There's no commercialized carnivore. It's just average people like me. I gave it a shot. They pulled it off for longer than a couple months, and their minds are blown, because this is a cheat code to life, and you will find out it is, as long as you do your research, stick to it, and trust it. Every month, just a little more happens. You're a little bit better here. You lost a little more weight. Whatever your needs are, it just generally magically seems to work on those particular things. Yeah, and that's it. And then enjoy life, because it's going to be a huge game changer. And then once you're down a whole year and you look in the mirror and you don't recognize who you see, but you love who you see, then you're going to find the joy that you could only get if you won a lottery or something.